open for business. I'm moving on to item 2.04, Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to ask Ms. Winters to unmute everyone so that we can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America
and
to the republic
for which it
for which
stands,
stands one nation,
under God,
God, indivisible, with
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll tune everyone to mute. And we will move to item 2.05, approval of the consent agenda consistent with board policy. Board members, if I can have you unmute so that we can conduct board business a little easier. I'd like to have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items.
And a second, please.
I'll second it.
Mr. Manzenberger seconds. Any discussion? Not hearing any? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And raise your hand so we can see you. I see that unanimously carried. All right, I am moving on to item 2.08. Here. Ms. Winters, are there any calls to the public today?
We do not have any calls to the public this evening, Mr. Marcus.
All right, then we will move on to item 2.09, Superintendent's Report.
Yes, thank you, President Marcus. You may want to adjust your camera slightly down. There you are. Thank you very, very much, Mr. Marcus. A few updates here. Two of them, well, one's related to our relationship with Menta and RISE. For the last 2 years, we've had a very strong and productive relationship with the Menta organization, who has provided and worked in collaboration with us in creating our ED programs over Cottonwood Education Services. Through mutual agreement, we are moving away from Menta, and through another mutual agreement, we are moving into working with RISE. RISE is the autism program that we've been working with for the last year over at Cottonwood Elementary or Education Services. And they will now be providing as an approved private education provider through the State Department of Education to be a designated provider for that. And they will be taking over our ED program as we go into the future. Mr. Snyder, Dr. Alley, and myself have met with RISE, and we have worked out details, and we will have those finalized as far as an IGA goes to continue providing those absolutely vital services for our highest needs children. A couple other updates that I'd like to give you as well. We've received some positive news, one late today, about 2 hours ago. We just received notification from our partners with the Vitalist Foundation. They will be funding our programs, our responsive classrooms programs for an additional year. That comes to the sum of $30,000 for training. It was a very well-received program last summer, and so I'm very excited to be able to continue that process as we go into the next year. We also received some good news from our partners with Access, who have been funding our Focus Zone programs. They have put our application in for an additional year of funding, and that's close to $250,000 for next year. We'll know in the coming weeks whether that's a definite, but they have actually preliminary approved us for that funding. And so that will carry on past September of 2020 into 2021. And third thing I would like to note is we've been recognized by board docs and all the work by Ms. Winters on the communication pieces that we have and the communication of the boards, as well as our admin team meetings moving forward. And we're being recognized as a leader in that area as well. So that is all I have for you, President Marcus.
All right, thank you very much, Superintendent King. We move on to item 2.10, special acknowledgements by Superintendent King.
Well, always my favorite part. I hope some of you or all of you have seen the signs around our community. There's 4 different signs. One's in Spanish. We're all in this together. COCSD proud, as well as we miss you signs. Those were provided by some funding through an organization called the Sisterhood Foundation. And I'm going to recognize Mr. Bill Mevers, who has been absolutely instrumental in assisting this district moving forward with positive messaging. And he's actually upped the ante on that as well. And we'll be holding an event on May 19th at Fry's, and this foundation will also be providing the swag that we can hand out to children and families as we get that one last look at them for the year and we can greet them. So I'm very appreciative of that. We've also had, this week is Teacher Appreciation Week, so any teachers that are listening in, I am very, very grateful. I know that there's at least one teacher. For some reason, I see my wife on this tonight, so I'm appreciative of her as a second grade teacher, not in our district, but in teachers everywhere are valued to me. Nurses and teachers are the 2 highest callings in life, I believe. And the third thing is we had principal appreciation last week, and that was, I appreciate all of our principals very much, and you're going to hear about some of their work that they've been doing a little bit later on.
Ready for us to move forward,
I
Superintendent?
am ready for you to move forward, Mr. Marcus, yes.
All right, we're going to move on to item 2.11, information agenda item, campus reports, one great thing. In answer to Superintendent King's question about why some of our participants are here tonight, I am going to first call on Ms. Rhoda to talk about MVP. You are muted, Ms. Rhoda.
I'm not anymore. Okay,
There we go.
thank you. I'm really excited to be here. It's nice to see all of the faces on screen with us. Thank you everybody for being here. I'm sharing good things with MVP. I have a very special acknowledgement to recognize a former student of MVP, an amazing young lady who, when I think about IB and all of the learner profile attitudes, she encompasses all 10 of them. She is definitely a young lady who is seeking to help make the world a better place, and she is on her way to doing amazing things, which she already does. I reached out to my teammate from several years ago, Miss McFarland, and she had these things to say about Violet King. Violet is hands down, this is Miss McFarland speaking, the most enthusiastic lover of knowledge. We heard all the time about interesting conversations with Mrs. Romero in the car rides to school. She always talked about what they were doing in class, created puppet shows with historical accuracy, humor, and wit. And every time Miss McFarland thinks of Violet, which is often as a history teacher, she thinks of her amazing smile and joy of learning. I had the absolute privilege of having Violet in my science and math class and STEM club after school. And we did a lot of amazing things. We built a giant roller coaster out of Connects. Her conservation of mass project was undeniably unmatched by anyone. I have a picture of her presenting it. We rock, paper, scissors, lizard, Spock. You know, we had our own version that we created on our car rides home. I'm just very, very proud of this young lady. She's a Flynn Scholar winner, and I'm so proud of her. I'm not surprised, and I will never, ever forget Black Swan, Swan Lake, and all of the amazing things. Violet, I love you. I'm proud of you. I'm so honored that I was your teacher, and I thank you for everything. So that's my student recognition for MVP.
Let me just add, the superintendent had no foreknowledge that we were going to make this recognition. I just want to add my 2 cents from my personal knowledge of Violet King. First, an extraordinary student, an extraordinary mind, and an extraordinary heart to go with it. It is, we are all so proud of you, Violet, for everything that you have done, for what you bring. Absolutely. Thank you, Mrs. Rhoda. And it's wonderful to see people who are truly hearted, wonderful, thoughtful, smart, get rewarded with programs such as the Flynn Scholarship, which is very, very difficult to get, not to mention perfect scores on national exams. I mean, just, a first-rate student and a first-rate person. We are all expecting great things from you out there in the real world. And you are a mark of what our kinds of programs can do to contribute to creating the kind of society that we want to have. So I will say thank you. I wish that we could do this in person so that we could shake your hand. So this is my virtual handshake for you. Thank you so much. And we're just so proud of you.
Mr. Marcus, may I add just something to what you just said,
Certainly.
please? So I've noticed that there are some teachers from Mingus here, as well as from Camp Verde, as well as from Cottonwood. And our family is very, very grateful for all the educators that have been part of our lives for the last, gosh, now it's a long time anyway, for close to 16 years in the Verde Valley. We are very, very grateful. And Ms. Rhoda, your name is always spoken of very highly in our house. It is a revered name in our house. And I also see Mr. Myers here, and I do want to thank him. He was her first algebra teacher, I think, anyway, when they used to do the 8th grade algebra up there. So Mr. Mai, thank you very much as well, and all the educators throughout our community. As I said, we are a very, very grateful family.
And I do want to just give Stephanie King an opportunity if you would like to say something, because behind every successful student are two parents. So we are so proud of you as well.
It's not me at all, it's all her, but I thank all of you guys for all that you've done for us as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all of the kind words and for all of the work my teachers and principals have done to help the schools be as fantastic as they were for 13 years.
What about your parents, Violet?
My parents were my teachers as well, so it's included in my thank you.
There you go. And hopefully it won't be considered too rude if we don't stay for the entire meeting.
So that's, we certainly would understand that. So thank you for joining us and letting us celebrate you.
Thank
Did any
you.
board members have anything they wanted to add?
I want to say thank you, Violet. What a great job. We're proud of you.
Thank you.
you.
All right. Mrs. Rhoda, I noticed that there's a couple of other things on your list, so I want to give you an opportunity to close out for MVP.
Yeah, just a couple of acknowledgements. Just really excited about mountain bike track that we are in the process of engineering and being built on our property. So we have 4 acres of land that we're going to be developing, and a huge thanks to Rich Lever. He works, he's part of the Bikes for Kids. He's donated the bikes for our mountain club, and also to Kevin Adams for working on writing the grant for this. I'm very excited about that for our students. And then also an Earth Day challenge that Terry Rose did, challenging students to repurpose something, and made a contest out of it. And one of our students, Lydia Martinez, and her mother, Priscilla, took an old rusty shed and repurposed it and painted beautiful flowers on it, and just turned something that was kind of an eyesore into something that was beautiful and pleasant for everyone to look at. So celebrating Earth Day and making old things new again. So good things.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rhoda. Mrs. Prasad.
So things have been busy at Oak Creek. Thank you, Mr. Marcus. We had, this isn't just for Oak Creek, COCSD hosted a scavenger hunt. The PE teachers actually led it. It was amazing seeing all the families across the district, teachers and the students getting into it. It brought us a lot of people together at a time where, you know, they were feeling a little low and the weeks had gone on. So the scavenger hunt was a big success. And I thank all the PE teachers for putting that together. I know they're working on something before the end of the school year again, since we are not on campus to celebrate and share with each other the end of the school year. Another thing Oak Creek has been doing with our 21st Century Grant, we have been doing some parent meetings over Zoom. Dr. Rankin, who is our behavioral specialist, has been leading those meetings. Families have expressed the interest in attending and wanting the information. So we've started video recording those Zoom meetings and putting them out on Facebook pages so that everyone has the availability to view those videos. They are focused on family stress. All kids and parents right now are feeling that, feeling the trauma and getting a little antsy for summer to get started. The feedback from the first meeting, families were really interested in tips on how to deal with students who are tantruming and what the impact on student stress was and what tools we could provide for families. So we're going ahead with that. And we're also going to be looking at putting some, offering some yoga classes and some things online for all of our students using our grant. With that said, the LISA organization recently received a $5,000 grant that they wrote. And they've been coordinating with me to help fund internet for families, STEM kits, helping to pay for some fun things for our 8th grade promotion. And we've been collaborating with the LISA organization. So we're very grateful for our community partners as well.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's go with Mr. Schumacher.
Yes, thank you, President Marcus. Our great thing to report is that just a few really days before we went into spring break, we were visited by the Capturing Kids' Hearts Showcase School Committee. They did a thorough assessment of our campus, a meeting with students, meeting with teachers, meeting with community members and parents. I did my absolute best just to get out of the way and let those stakeholders and members of our learning community speak for themselves. It involved a student tour, and so we were quiet for a while, of course, amidst the pandemic, but received the great news just last week that we are a showcase school, which is a great honor for us. I think statistically, he said there were more than 2,000 schools, this was flipping, that are Capturing Kids' Heart School, but just about 10%, around 200, are showcase schools. And so just really honored to be in that group, and a testament to the hard work of our staff, using that as a model to transform, into this new K-8 school. And I think amongst all the change that we endured, of course, this year, but last year as well, going from the middle school to the K-8, that really served as a framework to empower our team and to give us a good model to just live by. And so just kudos to my team. Of course, like I said, I just get out of the way and let them do the good work. And so just really impressed and honored to have that designation.
Well, congratulations, Mr. Schumacher, to you and to your full team. What an outstanding achievement.
Thank you.
Let me move to Dr. Alley.
Hi. Yeah, I have just a quick one. So as I'm sure everybody knows, I love working with our students that maybe have more of a sensitive background or more needs than your average child. And so really excited, always looking for different ways to help these students with their emotional or physical or social or academic needs. And so Danny Watkins, our director for Bridgeway, has been working on a grant to secure funding for equine therapy that we'll be offering our students starting in Bridgeway and possibly our ED component of RISE starting next year. And he's getting that going, and we're really excited. There's a lot of research behind equine therapy and what it can do for students with social and emotional disorders. And so we're excited to look forward to that next year.
That sounds outstanding, Dr. Alley. Just one footnote, having been involved in this in another district, and I'm sure you've probably already done this, but important to touch base with Mr. Snyder on any insurance issues that may arise.
Of course, yes. Thank you.
All righty, that moves us on to, let's see, who do I have left? It's Mrs. Vaca.
I'm going to be pretty quick and wrap this up for you. But I think that you've heard from everyone today and all the fabulous things we were doing. And as well as Matt, I was on that call with him, and it was just a very comforting feeling to have somebody else that was there with us. So I'm very excited to have our second showcase school moving. And there's really no reason we shouldn't have four. Really, the thing about it is, I think more than any other year that I've worked, I've seen so much more heart this year, especially with COVID-19. And it has really bonded our staff in a way that I think it wouldn't have been there prior to that. We appreciate each other much, much more when we see each other. So I do believe that that launchpad of capturing kids' hearts has trickled out in many different aspects. So I'm just feel very great and just honored to be in this district right now.
Well, I think that all of our principals, including Dr. Alley, have just done an extraordinary job through extremely difficult times. If we go back, a year ago, the big challenge was, can we get this consolidation of grades together, and how challenging all that would be. And apparently you did such a good job that the universe wanted you to have another big challenge this year. But I'm very grateful and very proud to say that the team under Superintendent King's leadership has just done an extraordinary job under very difficult circumstances. All right, thank you very much. And that will take us to item 3.01, information and discussion on plan development for reopening of schools for the 2020-2021 school year. Superintendent King.
Yes, thank you, President Marcus. Cottonwood-Oak Creek School District, like schools and districts around the state, around the nation, around the world, are facing something that we have not seen in more than 100 years. And it's hopefully a once-in-a-lifetime situation that we're going to be in. It's requiring a lot of creativity. It's requiring imagination on our part. It's requiring collaboration. It's requiring hard conversations. It's requiring a lot of conversations, especially through Zoom, and as we adjust to what is our current normal. I don't want to call it a new normal because I don't think it's going to be here forever, but it is our current normal. And continue to move the district forward with all the initiatives. You've heard from all of our principals tonight, there's a lot of things that are continuing to happen in our district in line with what our vision is and what the direction of the board and what the needs of the community are. So having said that, our biggest challenge right now, and will continue to be our biggest challenge for the next foreseeable future, will be in looking to the future with great unknowns. And I was saying for a long time, I don't know to things. And I'm really trying really hard not to say I don't know, but try to reframe that into what I do know. And to what I do know, that when we return in August, a little over 3 months from now, however that looks, it's going to be very, very different. And to anticipate how that difference is going to be is our calling right now, to not only anticipate it, but to create plans and structure so that whatever does happen, we are ready to continue to move this district forward in a way that advances our children and our staff and our community towards what our mission and goals are. So Trish, I think that you have a document that if you could share your screen, I would appreciate that. And I'm going to briefly read the first paragraph because this outlines some of the things that we're seeing. I will tell you that we are anticipating some guidance from the state towards the end of the month. We as an admin team did not believe that we could wait till the end of the month to begin this planning process because we wanted to include as many of our staff and our community in this so that they understand and they can contribute both their hearts and their minds to what we're going to be facing in August. So Trish, are you able to do that?
I did share it. Is it not showing up?
I don't
No,
see
it's not.
Other people may.
Okay.
Um, I'll begin reading though. And I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but I do want this first paragraph to be out there for our community to understand. It says, Cottonwood-Oak Creek School District is in the process of planning for 4 different contingencies for the reopening of schools in August of 2020. We are looking at the 2021 school year through the lens of opportunity to examine our vision, our practices, and our abilities to best serve the COCSD community in unique and challenging circumstances. Cottonwood-Oak Creek views the COVID-19 situation as a significant opportunity to expand on our student supports and to continue to be innovative in our programs as we are assisting with our community. The timing for the reopening of COCSD, and I want to be very clear on this, the timing for the reopening of our schools will be determined by the governor of Arizona in collaboration with the state superintendent of public instruction. We will not be making that decision without their making the decision. We'll be also be informed by the guidance and for the Centers of Disease Control and our state and county health departments. So having said those things, we do view this as an administrative team as a great opportunity. And already we are seeing things that we could have never believed happen already with our teachers and our staff. They are doing things and stretching the limits of their abilities and doing things they never would have even anticipated them knowing what to do, because as they say, necessity is the mother of invention. And we've had a lot of necessity out there recently. And consequently, we've had a lot of invention. So the 4 different contingencies that we're going to be planning for is, first and foremost, school opens in August. That is what we would all like to see. And how that's going to look is going to be different. If we do open and receive the order from the governor that you are open for business, it's not going to be the same. We will have additional protocols in place for cleaning, transportation, physical distancing, and health needs. It won't be easy, nor will it be normal. But I do believe that we would be especially well positioned. Cottonwood-Oak Creek would be especially well positioned with all the work that we've been doing in our district for the last 4 or 5 years on increasing our social and emotional supports for the children that we have. And I believe that when we come back, many of our children are going to have increased mental health needs. I think our families, I think this is a very traumatic event, probably unparalleled, at least certainly in our lifetimes. And so we're going to be ready for that. We also may need to consider alternatively grouped classrooms. For example, many of our children have been working very, very hard over the last 6 weeks. Some of our children, for a lot of reasons, have not really had the access nor the ability to continue their studies. So I do believe that we may see some gaps in students' learning. So to meet that need, we may need to consider alternatively grouped classrooms, combination classrooms, developmental or accelerated models. Again, this goes back to our ability to stretch our models of methods of delivery of instruction, as well as how and why we see us doing schooling. So that's A, as the first contingency. School opens in August. B, school does open in August, but we have significant restrictions in class sizes, sanitation, transportation, food service, and health protocols. This may require a tight schedule with possible flipped, satellite, or hybrid models of instruction, leveraging our technology ability. And I will say, over the last 10, 12 years, especially under the leadership of Kathy Epperson, our district has been a leader in regards to the ability for us to provide technology service to our kids. Our infrastructure is solid. We have a lot of machines. We've got a lot of storage space. We've got a lot of Wi-Fi. We have a tremendous ability out there to help provide these types of opportunities. So the second contingency we're looking at is we come back, but there may be severe restrictions. That may also look at alternative schedules, maybe a Monday and Wednesday or half days. And we'll get to how we're going to determine that a little bit later on. The third option, or letter C, is that we are still in shutdown. This is by far the least attractive option that any of us wants to see, although this could be a reality and we have to plan accordingly. While we have excellent technology in our district, our population is especially not well suited to a technology-based model of instruction. Staying home with all the challenges that they have, many of our students have, is not a conducive model to continue to move them forward. We'll also continue to have accessibility problems and equity issues with technology. The accessibility to internet as well as devices. And I will say that our district has pushed out, I think, Kathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we're close to 300 devices that we've pushed out in the last 6+ weeks. But the internet continues to be an issue. We have made some inroads on that with some of our local providers. Sparklight has been very helpful as we move forward with that. And also Lisa, the group that Ms. Prasad mentioned out in Cornville, has been instrumental in helping provide the funding for that, for some low-cost internet for families. But there are still parts of our community, being a rural community, there are still many parts of our community that don't have access for one reason or another. Therefore, we have the equity issues in providing all children the same accessibility to this education. We'll continue to work through that, but already we're starting to see some issues with the internet overall in the Verde Valley. And I will tell you that we are not alone in this. Many rural parts of Arizona, this is a common topic of conversation among superintendents. Many parts of rural Arizona are seeing the same thing, and there are many, many, many other areas of our state that are seeing far worse conditions than we have here. Letter D, or the fourth option, is we go back in some manner. Either we come back full-time or we come back with restrictions. And then if there is a resurgence in COVID-19, we are ordered back into shutdown. This is, again, a very problematic issue, but we have to be ready for it. And again, with foresight and with proper planning, we have 3 months. We need to make that transition as smooth as possible and reinforce those areas that we know will be difficult spots to be in. So those are the 4 different scenarios that we're forecasting right now, and there are variations on those different scenarios to one degree or another. But I think that can encompass all the different things that we might see come August. But so what? So if we can see what might happen, if we can forecast, if we can foretell what we might see, what are we going to do about it? So through a lot of work on the part of our admin team, we've identified 6 major domains to create task forces to address these. I'm gonna go over these domains right now. Thank you very much, Trish, for strolling down. The first one relates to governance. And governance are the essential actions that will foster the shared understanding of the goals, responsibility, and accountability. We as a district, as Cottonwood-Oak Creek School District, we must continue to move this forward. But we must also look at our legal aspects to this. We must look at our policy. We must look at our communications. We must look at the financial aspects to whatever we do. Sometimes technology is expensive, and we've heard some rumors and some just whispers that there may be assistance coming from the federal government, but I've not seen the check as of yet to assist us with that. Also looking at the policy and legal ramifications of whatever route path that we are on, those need to be looked at as well. The second task force is wellness. And I do believe that this is going to be the #1 challenge that we see coming back. We're going to see kids and families, as I said before, that have been traumatized, that have gone through something, all of us, including our staff, that have gone through something that we did not anticipate going through. We must be very aware, but we also must be very responsive to what their needs are. The work that we've done, Mr. Schumacher and Ms. Vaca mentioned they're capturing kids' hearts. That is the foundation for what we do. That gives us the heart of what we do. Everything that we do in this district for the last 3 years has been focused through the lens of relationships. And that needs to continue. We need to continue to foster those positive relationships with children. We need to continue to foster those positive relationships with our families. And we also need to continue to build our community up as we work together towards that end. We also have our focus zones. In the last 3 years, our focus zones are now at every single one of our schools. We have responsive classrooms. We have relationships with Spectrum. We have relationships with some private foundations that also assist. We also are after school programs that have been rapidly expanding over the last couple of years. All of those things are good for kids and they're good for families, and they're going to serve us well as we recognize the increased social, emotional, and mental health needs of the children and families that we serve. So that's the second area. The third area is the heart of what we do as schools, and this is on instruction. Instruction is going to be a big challenge, regardless of where we are at, whether we come back fully, or whether we come back with restrictions, or whether we're still on shutdown. We have to continue to provide those educational opportunities for all. Trisha's working. So to that end, how do we do that? So a task force will also be formed around the instruction model, and all the other task forces have to support that instruction model. This is the heart of what we do. The fourth is facilities. When we come back, there'll have to be additional protocols regardless of what it is. We'll have to be additional protocols for sanitation, for spacing, whatever those might be. We might have to take a room and say, okay, this room on Tuesday, then on Wednesday we sanitize it, and then it's back in use on Thursday. So how do the facilities support the instructional model that we have? The fifth is operations, and this task force will focus on the facilitation of our auxiliary services, for example, food service and transportation. Right now, and our food service and transportation departments right now are one of the many heroes that we have in our school district. Last week, we were close to, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Vita, or the week before that, we were close to 8,000 meals out to our community served. Some of them in the pickup lines at Cottonwood Education Services, but many of them, most of them are going out on our bus routes. And I know Ms. Vaca, you rode the bus, was that today? You rode the bus today.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. And Ms. Prasad, one of those days as well. Everybody's right. A lot of people are riding the bus and getting out there. I've had the opportunity to get there and see that as well. And I'm seeing many families coming up, and they are very, very grateful for what we are providing. So our partners with Sodexo have been outstanding. And I will say that going with Sodexo has been a huge advantage. We have heard different stories from around the state of some school districts who are doing similar things, but they've been running low on supplies and inventory of food. We have never faced that. And when I asked Ms. Vita that question, why haven't we seen any of that? And she says it's because of the size of the company that we work with and the vendors that they have accessibility to. So I was over at Cottonwood Education Services cafeteria this morning, and the freezers are full, gallons of milk, and they're ready to push out the week's meals tomorrow. So I'm very grateful to that. But we need to be very considerate as far as how those operations move forward. And the 6th task force is going to be absolutely vital, as it's shown itself to be in the last 6+ weeks, and that's technology. How do we continue to integrate our technology to support the instructional models that we'll be looking at? So last week as an administrative team, we assigned leads, administrative leads to each of these task forces. And we are in the process of starting to populate those task forces with key individuals from around the district who might have expertise or specialties in these particular areas. Tomorrow, our admin team will be meeting at 8 a.m. And by the way, Superintendent Hoffman will be attending that meeting as well, the state superintendent. And so she'll hear some of this. But tomorrow, we're going to begin actually putting names to places and to get those task forces going, with the eventuality of having outlines of plans in place for these 4 different contingencies by the end of the month. Is there any questions, or anybody like any clarification on any of those items?
I have a question, Steve, Mr. King.
Yes, Mr. Manzenberg.
What is Cottonwood-Oak Creek District doing to address the accessibility and the equity issues in relation to technology?
So that's a great question, Mr. Manzenberg. Thank you for that. It was recognized very, very early on that many of our students just did not have those ability to access what we were pushing out through our online platforms. And I will say as well, our teachers have done a marvelous job in putting together the classes and the lesson plans and the content out there. But many of our students aren't able to access them. A key issue that we've seen in some of our more remote locations, for example, one is Lower Oak Creek Estates, but there's also pieces and parts of the Verde Villages that do not have any kind of internet at all, or if they do have internet, it's through old coax systems and not the fiber lines, which provide more high speed. So our technology crew went out very early, and they started doing a few surveys of these different areas that we were seeing and the things that we could do. At the same time, we also began working with the different internet providers. Some we've had success with, others it has taken a while to get some success with. And I will say that Stan Goligoski of the Yavapai County Education Service Agency has been absolutely instrumental in lighting some fires out there. So we are beginning to see these hotspots get out to these individual families. And like I said, we have 3 months to increase that, and we're going to continue to work through it. Another issue that we're seeing as well is the accessibility for us to get the hotspots. They are on back order. They're not as easy to get anymore, because you can imagine everybody wants to get them right now. So our tech departments continue to work through that. We've also explored the creation of some virtual private networks in certain areas where we run the network, put the content out there the night before, it comes back to a localized server, and then we can actually download that back up to our servers. But I do believe that this will be an ongoing issue, Mr. Marcus, and we are continuing to work through it. Great question. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions from board members?
I do. Okay, Steve, what are some of the other significant challenges in relation to the school operations, such as transportation, food service, and stuff?
So a big thing that I do believe that we could see when we come back in August is that physical distancing. And I want to give a special shout out to Mr. Schumacher. Very early on in this, he said, we shouldn't use that term social distancing. And finally, the physical distancing term is coming in. And I think that's far more effective. We want to continue to be socially close to all those whom we serve, as well as each other, now more than ever. But the physical distancing issue will be a key component in this as far as our transportation. Our buses have traditionally been very, very packed. We've had issues with with bus drivers and attracting and so on and so forth with them. So we've had very packed buses. We've also had our lunchrooms that have been at different times pretty packed. How do you create the physical space to do that safely? Goes the same thing with the classrooms. How do you create that space? One of the things we looked at is back in Arizona, back during the Spanish flu pandemic 100 years ago, almost exactly 100 years ago, they went to split schedules, and that started beginning the conversation. If we can reduce the number of kids on a campus at any given time, how they enter the campus, how they get on the buses, and et cetera, then we can reduce the transmission of this virus. Now, that's going to create unique challenges for every different campus. For example, Mr. Schumacher's campus is more of an open air campus. In many ways, that may be more conducive to the physical distancing. Ms. Baca's campus over at DDB is an enclosed campus. That creates some challenges unto itself. So the goal of the Facilities and Operations Task Force is how do we incorporate those physical distancing protocols that we anticipate will be in effect into the overarching program that we'll be able to provide our community.
Are there any additional questions? Mrs. Bejarano, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay. Ms. Rollins. You have to unmute, Ms. Rollins. Ms. Rollins, can you unmute your phone? There you go.
There we go. Mr. King, I just wanted to say that you all have been working hard with this previous information that we just had, and I want to thank you for it. How can the governing board best be of assistance in any of these items?
Well, that is an absolutely wonderful question. And the first thing I want to say to our governing board is there is not a superintendent anywhere that could ask for a more supportive, engaged board than Cottonwood-Oak Creek School District have. Many of you have experience within our district. You get it, you ask the right questions, and I do appreciate that on a personal basis, and I know that I speak for all of our staff, how grateful we are to have you as a board. I think the key thing that role that the board can play in the coming weeks and months is we're going to need to look at many of our policies. We're going to be reflective, and we're going to have to be thoughtful, and we're going to have to make those policies be able to work for us. And how do we do that? There'll be many, many decisions that we'll be making in the coming months that we had not foreseen. And the anticipation of the situation we're in is pretty remarkable to get to that point. But we are going to need to be able to make those decisions with flexibility, as well as with a certain level of speed in many cases. So I ask for your patience. I ask for your continued communication back to me, as well as our staff, and as well as our community. And I also need your thoughtfulness, and I need your imaginations in saying, okay, this is what we're facing. What can we do as a district about this? And there'll be, like I said, right now there's many unknowns, and I anticipate there to be many more unknowns as we move towards August. And as they come at us, they might be coming at us very, very quickly. And we have to be able to be very responsive very quickly. So I think the key thing the governing board can do for our district is continue to be there for us, be reflective, be thoughtful, and look at what those policies would do to support our children, our community, and our schools.
Superintendent King, just a couple more questions.
Sure.
Can you tell us how our recent years of work in social emotional supports ties into the program that you've outlined?
Yeah, I touched on that a little bit. And in looking at the task forces that we have, there's 6 of them. And in my thinking, there is none more important than the task force related to wellness. From our focus zones to the work that we've done through the neurosequential methods, to all the way to the relationship with Spectrum, as well as capturing kids' hearts. Those will serve us better than anything that we could have done in the past 4 or 5 years. Because what I think that has done more than anything is put at the forefront the needs of the child, all of the needs, not just the academic needs, but all those needs that go into the academic. You know, a phrase that I heard fairly recently, I've been using it a lot lately, is you have to you have to Maslow before you can bloom. And that's referring to those two hierarchies, and Maslow being those basic needs that people have. If a kid's hungry, they're not going to learn. If a kid doesn't feel safe, they're not going to learn. Those are the types of things we need to be addressed very, very, very comprehensively as we do it. And I think that's where all of our social emotional supports are going to come in handy. But if we want them to bloom, if we want them to follow those and be able to learn, they have to have their basic needs met. And I think the recognition and the vision that this district has created around that very fact, I'm going to use that as a fact, that very fact will serve us well. So, again, that goes back to the board support that we've had for this for quite some time now in the direction of the district. So thank you.
Superintendent, we know that from your earlier comments, you acknowledged that children are going to be returning to school with a variety of different learning gaps, let's call it, due to the shutdown. How do you and your team intend to address that?
So that'll be mostly addressed through the instruction task force that we formed. But I will say that one of the recent innovations in our district has been brought through FastBridge. And FastBridge is our basic program that allows us to assess children's academic skills and where they stand. That is also going to serve us well when we return. And I also want to stress here that it's not about, okay, we get kids back, we're just going to test. We need to give them time. We need to give our staff time to get situated back into the new routines, the new normal that we're going to be seeing. But having this tool available to us, I also want to give a great level of appreciation to Ms. Woodward, who spearheaded this along with many other things in our district. But FastBridge will give us the ability to assess these student skills and then to create the proper structures. So we're moving towards a competency-based form of education instead of a grade level. And that's when I talked about there could be perhaps some combination classes. There could be some accelerated groups. There could be some remediation groups. That's going to be up for us to determine what that looks like. But having that tool in order to diagnose and then prescribe the proper academic interventions are going to serve us well. That's going to take some time. Again, this is, as somebody said recently, building the airplane as we're flying. But we've got 3 months to build this airplane. If we anticipate that these children are going to be coming back with these wide variety of skills, academic skills, what are we going to do about it? We're going to assess, we're going to diagnose, and then we're going to prescribe the remediation or the acceleration that they may need. And again, that's going to come out of the instruction task force that will be formed the next week or so.
I'm very excited about the innovative approaches that we're taking. COVID-19 has forced us to analyze all of our assumptions and to think out of the box and think differently. I think the end result will be a stronger system. I do want to take just a moment. I know that we have thanked Mrs. Everson, and I repeat that thanks for her work on the platform. But I noticed that we have Ms. Romero also on the phone, and she has done an outstanding job in helping, in partnering with Mrs. Epperson to build the platform that we have in place. So I want to just thank both of you for the outstanding work that you have done.
So you're welcome, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I'm going to take us then to item 4.01, legislative issues. Superintendent King.
Yes, thank you, President Marcus. There is a lot of news coming out of our legislature, none of it definitive. So there's a lot of disagreement. The most recent disagreement is whether or not the legislature should adjourn. And there is some movement towards adjourning for the year. And adjourning means they would not be looking at any new bills, nor would they be looking at any existing bills. The belief is that that may not happen, but the only bills that some people want to look at are bills that are related to COVID-19. So there's 3 different ways that could go: is no bills looked at, old bills as well as new bills, or only COVID-19 bills. And that would be in the special or the current legislative session. Or they could just adjourn and say, we're absolutely done. We do anticipate that they'll be coming back in June to discuss budget. Every indication that I've heard is that they are waiting for the April and May receipts. I'm sorry, March and April tax receipts to start looking at budgets for next year. That concerns me. I will be honest with you. That does concern me. Most of our funding in Arizona related to education anyways through sales taxes. And as you can imagine, our sales tax revenue has not been doing very well lately. So they will have the ability to do whatever they want to do. Although they did pass a budget, that is the skinny budget, that is no longer operational. And it could go any one of directions. It could also be used, the rainy day fund could be used to backfill. That's over $1 million or close to $1 billion in the rainy day fund to help offset some of these costs. And there's been disagreement on whether that should be used. And we're also anticipating the Federal CARES Act to bring in for K-12 education anyway, an additional $250 million to be distributed out to the schools. That would be a welcome addition as well. But right now, it is unclear what's going to happen as far as the legislature goes. One of the biggest downsides of this is the bill that Dr. Alley had been working on for about the last 6 or 7 months related to special education funding and the weights attached to those highest needs of our children. I did speak with Senator Allen late last week. It is dead. That is not moving forward. Any current money bill will not be funded this year. I also asked some basic questions of her, what they're looking at for next year. Another idea that's out there is they hold districts harmless and they go back, that districts may have I do not anticipate this happening, but one thing's being discussed is that districts would have a choice whether it be on current year funding for those districts that may be experiencing growth, or districts can choose to go back to what they used to have the prior year funding of districts that may be experiencing declines in enrollment. We don't know. I do know that the district or the state has extended the time period for us to submit our final budget for 2021 until the end of June. And that will give us a little bit of time once they make their decisions. But it's going to be some hard decisions on the part of the state moving forward as well. So we are waiting for the legislature to make decisions. Until then, we are in a holding pattern.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. Did I hear someone else?
No. I think you're getting feedback.
Yeah, I'm not sure how, but okay. All right, we're going to move on then to item 5.03, information, discussion, and action agenda item, approval of RFP 2021 FSA for a food service management company.
Yes, thank you, President Marcus. I'm going to pass this off to Mr. Snyder.
Thank you, Mr. King. As I think I've stated before, this RFP for food service management company is a very formal process. We use documents supplied by ADE, and then every step it has to have ADE approval. The RFP went out the 1st of March, I believe, and we had 5 good responses. We had an evaluation committee made up of 5 district staff members, 2 principals, and some district office staff. Each one of us got a copy of all 5 RFPs and did an evaluation for each one on our own. And then we came together to do a final scoring of those. And I think I listed the scoring in the agenda item there. In that scoring, it was about 1/3 of the RFP was the financial projections, menus, procurement, that type of thing. 1/3 was references, the organization chart, personnel, staffing, and training. And then 1/3 was pricing. Since we're on a fixed price contract, they had each respondent had to give prices for their breakfast, lunch, and their snacks. And then those were put into a matrix and given a weight and score. And as you can see, all 5 members scored Sodexo the highest. So I guess I would say that it is really my pleasure to recommend Sodexo for another 5-year contract.
I will entertain a motion to, let me make sure that I get this correct, a motion to approve Sodexo as the food service provider for the next 5 years, provided that we receive ADE approval. Is that
yes? And
correct?
And President Marcus, we have ADE has cleared all the documents, and they've approved all the documents and the evaluations. So we're
so
able
we
to
can-
go ahead
Good.
with offering Sodexo a contract.
All right, then I will entertain a motion to offer that contract to Sodexo. Do we have a motion?
I will
I'll make-
motion. Yes.
So, Mrs. Rollins,
Yes. Can you hear me now?
we can.
Okay, I move that we accept Sodexo as our food service management for the next 5 years.
Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Mrs. Bejarano. Just a few moments of discussion, and I'll certainly let any board member comment if they wish. I have said this before. Obviously, no one on the board had any influence on how this scoring was done. In fact, this is the first time I've even seen the scoring. I'm frankly not surprised that Sodexo scored as highly as they did. You know, in more than 45 years of being in business, I've had plenty of opportunity to work with vendors. And Sodexo has proven themselves to be a partner, not a vendor. And when I say partner, I mean someone who takes risks right alongside you, someone who goes the extra mile, whether or not they are compensated for that. And I'm just so pleased with what Sodexo has done for this district, for the students of this district, and for the community. I'm very pleased that they also came out on top of this scoring. Do any other board members have any comments they'd like to make?
Yes, I'd just like to say, being on the original board that approved them the first time, I've never really been disappointed in their service. I think they're a fantastic and great company.
Great. Any other comments?
Me too. I think they're great.
Good.
They always take care of us.
All right, then I will call for the vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand and say aye.
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 That is a unanimous vote. And we will, and it passes. That will move us on, I believe, Mrs. Winters, to item 8.01. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Well, I want to just start out item 8.01, which is information and discussion, the board report, to thank Mrs. Winters. She has just done an extraordinary job through also very difficult times. She holds things together. She brings these meetings together and has just done so much behind the scenes that none of us will ever know all of the contributions she has made. So thank you so much, Mrs. Winters, for all that you have done for us.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
second that. Thank you, Trish.
And I third that, absolutely.
And I fourth it.
Thank you.
And I 100th it because I would be lost. As everybody knows, I would be lost without Trish.
Believe me, we know that.
It says focus, Steve, focus. I know what that means, so I do appreciate it.
All right. Is there anything else that anyone would like to report?
Of course, me.
Mrs.
What would you
Valenzuela,
expect?
count on
I
you.
want to thank, first of all, I want to thank Mr. King for bringing out my sign. And I want to thank Kathy for putting everything on Facebook and Trish. And I got to see Mrs. Rhoda read a story, and I got to see Ms. Prasad. I got to see Jessica Vaca's parade, all these wonderful things that are going on. And I just appreciate it. And I know the children do too. And we have a great school district. So that's just what I want. I want to just give a shout out to those people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members have any report that they'd like to make?
I was just wondering if we are going to be trying to meet together next month, or are we still going to do the Zoom?
I think it depends on what position the governor takes in terms of his order. Right now, we have the stay-at-home order and the limit of 10 people that is at least in force until May 15th. I think we can revisit that when the governor revisits his order.
Okay, thanks.
I certainly would like to see us back in person if we can for our June meeting, but we will have to see what the governor decides.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, that takes us to 9.01, agenda items for next month. Does anyone have any particular items that they would like to see added to the agenda?
No.
Mr. Marcus?
Superintendent King.
So this would be of special interest to you. I did receive notification over the weekend that Brenda Lewis, who I know is on this call, she always is because she is the president of the Cottonwood Education Association, the local of the Arizona Education Association. She will be stepping down as president, and they had an election. So we have we actually have two new presidents. They're co-presidents. Leslie Petrich as well as Angela Cox will be taking over that for next year. So next month will be the final year of Ms. Lewis's reign, and I would like to recognize her next month for her contribution and service to this district through the AEA.
I would absolutely like to see us do that. She has done an extraordinary job, and it's a testament to the relationship that we have with our teachers, and it is greatly appreciated. So that'll be excellent.
I think I've lost you.
Two.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to point?
Mr. Marcus, I think we're having a connection issue with yours.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can, yes.
Okay. What I was saying is I think that your recommendation with regard to the agenda for next month is absolutely on target.
We lost you again.
I look forward to our being able to convey that honor. She has done an extraordinary job of helping us maintain the kind of relationship that any district would be proud of between faculty and administration, and that is a testament to her outstanding work. And we would certainly hope to see that continue with the new administration. Is there anything else that anyone else has to add?
Not I.
Okay, then I'm going to move to item 10.01. Without objection, we are adjourned.
Thank you all.
Thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.